Hey, I'm Coral and this is Coral Gardens. Thought I'd take you around on a weekly garden tour. I have zero idea what the date is, so I'm gonna just post it in the video and you guys will see it then. I know we're in August, it's somewhere, but I'm not sure where at all, so I don't even want to lie to you today. But it's a lovely evening in the valley and a little tiny bit of a wind going, but not anything crazy like we sometimes get. And we finally have things that are getting close to harvest or being harvested, and it's an exciting time. I'm hoping that we can get everything to full maturity before our season ends. And I have learned many lessons about starting early in this area. So let's flip you around and take a quick look at what we got growing. I did fertilize finally with fish fertilizer the other day, and everything's looking a little happier. So I decided to refilm the garden tour from last night because the garden looks so much better in the morning. It's all stressed out after a big hot day, and some of the leaves on the corn were looking gnarly. So I just thought it's pretty out here, and I think I have a few more things to talk about. So anyway, I was out here just kind of enjoying my garden. This is kind of where I sit most of the time. I have a chair right in the middle too, so sometimes I sit out there. Or Cameron comes and sits with me out here, and we've been spending more and more time outside because it's actually pretty comfortable in the shade. It's really hot in the sun most of the day, but sometimes when it's not just midday, this area is like comfortably warm. But I was sitting here, and then I can kind of preen at my herb garden, and I found two very interesting things. I did a short about one, but I'll tell you that about him in a minute. But I discovered that there was ants in here for a reason. I kept seeing kind of the larger ants. I have several varieties around my garden, and they always bring aphids. And I discovered that there was aphids on my dill, which I don't know if you could see. Yeah, let's see if we can get in and zoom in on some. This is hard to do through the viewfinder. See that guy right by my finger? That's an aphid. I figured on dill with these fine leaves, it's pretty hard to get off the aphids without crushing the herb itself. So let me zoom out here. So I cut off the heads and smash them on the ground right here because they were the most infested. The aphids usually like the flowery parts, but see there's a bunch right there. And I'm just hand smashing them right now because I've already watered, but tomorrow I'll try and remember to spray these down a little bit hard, but again, they're so delicate, it's a little difficult. So it's a bummer that the aphids are so attracted to dill because they seem to be, for now, leaving most of my other herbs alone. There's just one on this parsley leaf. Oh, nope, the new growth is gonna have it. So just gotta kind of go through and kill them wherever you can and keep the population down. But yeah, if you have ants, they're climbing on your plants. The only reason they do that is to bring aphids. They're not interested in eating your plants or things that are on your plants. They bring aphids to your plant, put them where they want them, and then wait for them to form. I want to say it's called honeydew, but that seems really wrong. But like a sweet substance is like, I think it's their waste, and then the ants eat that. So fun, little gross lesson there. Some of these down here are a little bit dead. I don't know if they're gonna have aphids or not. Yeah, everything kind of does. I'm just gonna smash everything so I don't. They're one thing I do not feel too guilty about killing, because they're in very large numbers for one, and they also can be devastating once they get larger numbers, and things eat them for sure, but there's always plenty of them. And I don't kill every single aphid in my garden. I'm not like fanatical, but when I start to see issues, I try and get control of it. And sometimes that's just spraying the plants down, like they're on my long beans pretty frequently. There's always ants and aphids, and I just spray them off, and it kind of keeps them down to not a crazy level. Okay, and then as for the thing I found, I saw this guy on a leaf up here. Oops, now I ripped him in half. I made a short about him. It's pretty gross. I guess I'm just brave now? Okay. But I thought it was a weird bug at first, and I realized it's a grasshopper exoskeleton. There's always grasshoppers on here, but yeah, I guess they were just growing. I'm eating my basil and growing. There's like all kinds of damage. I'm not using the basil to its full extent, so I'm not super mad about it. There's a lot of basil, and there's some plants that are a little bit superfluous. There's a couple holy basil volunteers down here. I think the cilantro might have died. It's hard to keep them watered, but corn that's dying. Tomatoes will throw in the ground. Potatoes. Oh, one of those guys got watered into the mud. It's okay though. Let's see if he's alive enough to... No. You're okay, buddy. We'll leave him and see if he tries to do anything. The flowers are looking really pretty. Oh, I forgot I had this crazy Disney princess experience a minute ago. I was watering. I'll show you where when I get over there. By the sunflowers. And a hummingbird flew like probably inches from my arm, flew past me, and then landed on a little branch right next to me, like 1.5 feet, and just sat there. I love when that happens. And I was singing too, so that's more of my Disney princess delusion. Yeah, let's call it a delusion. Not really a fantasy. I just always say I have the backstory. You know, they all have lost their parents. I'm either a villain or a princess. I'm gonna go with a little bit of both sometimes. So I'm just pulling some of these guys out so they can ramble different directions and not get too tangled. But the Zuni waffle gardens are doing pretty good. Some of these watermelons get a little bogged down in the dirt when we water, but they seem to do okay. Everything's starting to make flowers since we finally fed things. And there's a little baby, I think watermelon it looks like. It looks a little ruffly. Yeah. And then there should be a squash on the other corner, but I don't know if it's come up or not. If it doesn't, I'm not trying again. We don't have enough days in the season. There's a little watermelon there. It's one of the only big ones without a watermelon on. The corn is much taller than me. This corn anyway. It's making some ears. This is decorative corn, so I'm not super concerned about how big the ears are. I think if I try and do sweet corn next year, I'm going to ooh, grasshopper. I put my hand in there and there's a huge grasshopper. I'm gonna get out of there, bro. Go on. He thinks he's hiding from me, but he's not. Go on. Get. I'm always in fights with bugs on this YouTube channel. Ah, he hopped into me. Get out of here. Don't try and kick me. Go on. Get out of my corn. Now he's down in the water and I feel a little guilty. See, most bugs I have a hard time killing. That squash bugs, I do not feel guilty for a second. They are just my nemesis, but most other bugs I feel a little bit guilty. I think he's fine though. He's huge. So this guy's starting to green up a tiny bit and putting on some flowers. These squash here, we've known they're starting to make a comeback. We've known that this guy was a butternut for a long time, but we just realized that this guy was he's either a baked potato or a mashed potato. I can't remember which one I got, but they're supposed to take the place of a potato, which would be awesome for me when I try and go back on my AIP diet, because I cannot have any nightshades. So potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, all out, and I love all of those things. So it'd be really nice to find something that kind of replaced them. I love squash though too, and I did a lot of squash and sweet potatoes you can have on that diet. So I ate a lot of those, but I'm a little bit of a carb girl, so I gotta have some kind of carbs with my diet. It's hard to take out all the regular carbs, all of the dairy, all of the, like, almost anything good, but you still get like your meat and vegetables, and those are really my favorites. There's a little like mosquito eatery kind of bug. I don't know what that guy is. I don't think he's bad though. We'll let him be. But so this is our biggest pumpkin. No idea what he's gonna be yet. There's been some female flowers finally since we've fed things, but no I mean, some male flowers, but no female flowers yet. So I can't tell. This watermelon and that guy are just very intertwined, and I'm just letting them do their thing. This guy, though, I'm gonna try and ramble out this way. They grab onto just anything. Oh God, he's really wrapped around the squash here. Okay, buddy, come on. You gotta let go. Let go. There you go. You don't want to grow all over there. You want to grow out here. So we'll hope he'll kind of just ramble that way. I didn't realize he was that big, but I was checking out this guy last night, and he has a little bit of field spot starting, and that's one of the ways you know you can check for ripeness. The main best way is to look at the tendril closest to the watermelon, and if it's starting to dry up, or once it's completely dried up, it's ready. Also, it feels heavy for its size, so that's a good sign. But the biggest one is a tendril. So these corn are perking up a little bit. So are the squash that we're struggling. Where's that watermelon rambling around? This squash is trying to do something with its life. I should have replaced him, honestly. I replaced the other ones that were struggling. I should have replaced him too. But here's our silver Yamato watermelon. These were so good last year. I'm hoping he'll get bigger. Oh, some of these. We just let a few amaranth that grew in with the corn grow. They're so pretty. And the birds love to come eat them. But these corn are a good deal shorter than me. Those are the tall ones over there. This bed was definitely struggling. I've talked about it several times, but I think my son having to dig these ones deeper, in particular this one, because of the rocky ground. There was a nutrient deficiency, and I think, again, they needed to be fed, but I think that that's why those ones in the front are so much healthier than the ones here. Here's another watermelon. This one is very heavy for its size, and the tendril above it is almost completely dry. I don't know if you can see that. The base is a little bit green, and I feel like I want to try and let him go a little bit longer to be sure. But he's going to be the first couple are going to just be little guys because the plants weren't really big enough to grow a giant watermelon. There's a backup squash that came up. There's our Moon and Stars watermelon. Kind of barely hanging on. They seem to not do as well as the other melons here. This is a very good melon year. This melon back here is going to be hard to pull the weeds around once Cameron finally gets to these guys because he's just everywhere. And these corn last night were looking really curled. They are a little bit still today. Oh, that one is, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I might have overfish fertilized them, which I didn't really think much of it being a possibility because it's really balanced. But I did use a sprayer that we got for the first time, and I definitely used a lot of fish fertilizer, so I think I could have really overdone it. I'll start back here. Go down the archways. So I already showed you these couple squash at the first start. On the other side we have squash growing up. A nice spaghetti squash here. These guys were starting to really look like they needed to be fed. Their leaves are a little bit small and yellow at the bottom. So I'm glad that we fed them. I'm going to try and keep up now that we have this much easier way to fertilize. Fertilizing for me is almost impossible with my disability because it's like hand watering the whole garden. Here's a little bee. The bees love this arugula that has gone to seed. They're on it all day long. I have a really cute picture that my son sent me of a carpenter bee on him, and the carpenter bee is so heavy that it just flops the whole thing over. It's really funny to watch them try and hang on to get their pollen. But this is the spray nozzle attachment that we got, and it has a dial that you can set how much is coming out in it. And so I think I went a little ham, but I was also trying to really feed stuff because it's needed a feed for a while. we need to get rid of this pile of old cages and tomatoes at some point. Like I said, that's the arugula that went to seed that the bees just are all over. Usually they're not super awake yet this morning. There's only a few out. The early bees get the pollen, or what's that saying? I love how this red amaranth almost always has like weird variegations. Even the mostly purple ones will have a couple variegated leaves. They're so pretty. Artichoke coming back. I can't tell if that's 2 little pups or just the one. Hopefully it's one. But we can divide them if there's 2, but I didn't have luck with that when I divided. I had really healthy artichokes when I took the pups. They didn't do well. So I think that was just a rare occurrence though. So we have our tomatillos right here. Our Mexican sunflower that's forming a head. These are orange and get really bushy and have a whole multiflora, a bunch of heads. I think this one, in spite of being a really small plant, might have the furthest along tomatillos. So that sack looks really big, but inside you can feel that it's just about the size of a M&M, but round, obviously. I couldn't think of anything that's universally that size. But those are starting to fill out, and they should get going quickly. This one has a lot of flowers and branches, so I think it'll definitely be prolific. Here's the tomatoes that we didn't have a cage on initially. That's why these tomatoes are all tits up like this, because my son stuffed this in here and it had been kind of flopping along the ground, so it was growing a different way. It'll straighten out, and it really needed this cage. But yeah, there's lots of little babies finally growing on that guy. I think I had a tag on him, but no, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he was a store-bought start. These ones were a 6-pack of a determinate variety. Most of them are flowering. A couple are fruiting. As with last year, they are like almost dead at the ones that are in full sun most of the day, and the ones that get the benefit of this fence do a lot better. So this guy's a little puny. He's always been a little spindly, but he's catching up. Back to our tomatillos. And there's lots of branches. This one has a different growth habit with really thick branches and sparser leaves. It's funny. Chose a different path. Our peppers, these are the Anaheims. We've been harvesting these. This one has a little sun scald, I noticed. There's some amaranth. I might need to pull some of those that are close to the peppers. Carrots, I'm gonna come harvest the seeds off of this today so it doesn't just spread everywhere. Those are shishitos that I think I've mentioned a couple times that we left the peppers on when we started. And I shouldn't have done that. This is why you should pick them off. It had a lot of peppers and flowers, but when you put them in the ground, it needs to focus on getting its roots established in a new area. So the fruiting and flowering goes to the back seat and you get tiny little peppers or just dead flowers. And that kind of prevents the plant from making new ones. So we just need to pick them off. Harder for me to bend over now. I should have done it early. But and then our little jalapeno guy's down to 1 leaf. I don't know what happened to him, but we'll see if he pulls through. There's a little beet right here from when I planted in the fall, I think. Several amaranth. This is lunchbox peppers. And we've been harvesting off of those pretty well. That's a chocolate bell. We harvested one off of it, but it's been smaller. And then I think that's a Chileno. I'm hoping that's a Chileno. These poor little zinnias got planted out in really harsh sun and they're just struggling, but that's okay. Oh, I'm gonna go back and then we'll come back and look at the squash area in just a second, but I'm gonna go back up here. Okay, so we're back at the second arch. I took little detours down each side. I'm still trying to decide the best way to like uniformly remember to do it, so you guys don't get confused. But the long beans on this side are looking a lot better. There's like I said, ants all over it, and there's probably aphids on it as well. And I'll spray those off tomorrow. This side is the really prolific side that's my tallest thing going up the trellis so far. Just barely beating out some of the squash, but there's long beans on it. We've harvested a few already. I'm trying to tuck that one in so it's not on the ground. I flick the ants off occasionally too, just to give them a little bit of a setback. So there's multiple guys here. There's one down there on the ground that I'm not going to bend over for. Another one right here. And here's one of the flowers that's about to open. They're really pretty. Once they open, oops, there's that really pretty purple shade. I don't think there's any open. So many ants. I don't think there's any open right now. But I think I showed one in my last video. They're so pretty. Let's start on the side of this one. Oh, this guy. These guys are just struggling along. The squirrels have been eating the ends off of the melons here on all the ends. And I've seen them do it. That's how I know it's them. Oh, there's a little baby melon developing. That's fun. And then that's, I think, a cucumber that they always struggle here. I almost never have any luck with them. This is the amaranth arch. Some of them are getting a little tall. It should be pretty if they go up and all the way over, but I don't know if they will. And then on the exciting side of this, we have the Armenian yard-long cucumber and Kajari melons. Just a big full-sized one waiting to ripen. Lots of flowers, lots of growth on this guy. Rambling everywhere. I think Kajaris like it here, which is nice. And we have one more biggish guy here. And a few of those ends have gotten eaten off by squirrels too. Hopefully they leave them alone. We'll look at the squash real fast. So everything that's still growing is putting on lots of squash. Too much, some may say, because we haven't sold at the farmer's market yet. But we got to give a bunch to Cameron's Hootsie, which means grandma in Paiute, and that was fun. She's excited to make zucchini bread with one of the huge ones and put them with stewed tomatoes, like old school. I used to like that when I was a kid. Haven't done that in a long time. Anyway, seems like we have several. I planted 3 different kinds of regular green zucchini, so I don't know which is which. I meant to like pay attention this time so I could figure which one I like the best. But I'm just gonna use all the seeds I have anyway. They're all good. This one looks like a gray zucchini. Pretty little male squash flower. So the flowers themselves, I saw somebody talking about the inside looking like a female, so they assumed it was a female, but there was no fruit behind it. And I was saying that the most important part is the fruit behind it. Like, the anatomy is different. This just has a piston, the male flower, and the female one has an ovum, I think it's called. I'm not positive. I gotta look it up now. I just ripped that flower on accident. So it's more complex, but sometimes the genetics will just be weird, and you'll have a more complex male flower or less complex female flower. There's a pretty big zephyr right there. I probably should harvest right now. Gosh, I will. I'll just harvest it. I just harvest all these. I was gonna try and wait till we're gonna use them for dinner that night, but they're getting too big. I could show you guys this if I was a better camera woman or had some kind of stand. There's ants on that zucchini. So those are about the same size. They're a little bit on the large size, not like obscene where you don't want to use it for regular cooking. But it's probably, the seeds are probably getting a little bit bigger and the flesh gets a little bit like spongier and less firm, and the flavor kind of can go downhill. Okay, so we got those two. Got this one here too, and my favorite leaf patterned one. Yeah, that's big enough. Ew. These holes get really boggy. We have to really water. I'm gonna put that with the rest of them. That one's a little more grocery store size. So most people prefer to pick them at that level or smaller, depending on what you're trying to use it for. There's a few recipes that I think the smaller ones work better for a few that you're fine either way. Okay, I'll get these last two. So this one looks like it got partially pollinated, but it'll definitely be edible up to the point where it's not. And that one looks like it's having a problem with that. Like several of those look kind of similar. But I would cut it probably off the bottom part because it's not going to be as good. Still probably edible for sure. Put this on the fence for a second. Show you guys the sunflowers. And this big beast of a gray that has to have it. I need this guy away from, I think I'm gonna break this one. He's in the way of the little baby one over there. I don't want him to shade him out. Okay, I think I found solid enough footing. Oh, there's a squash bug on there. I saw him run off. Oh, jerk. This is the densest one, so it's easier for them to hide in. Let's see where he went now. They hide at the base, and it's hard to even see the base of this one. So, okay. I'll come and show you him from the other side too. He's pretty magnificent, and that was without feeding. He's growing now though. We fed, I think it's been 2 days, so not really that long. So like I said, this is a lot of squash for 2 people. It lasts for a little while because you're picking it fresh. Stuff you get in the grocery store has traveled a long way already. But I like having the variety. It'll have a slightly different flavor and texture. And kind of, you can mix them together and have a little bit of variety. Sorry, I'm huffing and puffing over here. But yeah, so here's that big, huge gray zucchini. There's the, see, these aren't buzzing with bees yet because it's early. There's only a few on the arugula. But I replanted all of these. I planted a delicata, a cocazelle, because I never got one of those. Those are like striped Italian zucchini. And I can't remember what the other ones were. But hopefully we have plenty of time for them. Hopefully they'll get gigantic like that full. But the rest of them are doing pretty good too. I think this crookneck could go one more day, especially because we have so much other squash. Cute little funny. I've been watering I cut back all the seed heads off of these. I shouldn't have let them go that far. I should have deadheaded them earlier. But they're trying to make comebacks, which I think is very cute. My little strawberry blonde sunflowers down here. That's the tiniest sunflower. Look at that guy. And little amaranth. And you can hear the chickens. Hi, chickens. Good morning. Are you guys hungry? Maybe I'll try and find you something. I guess I could pull them an amaranth with some stuff on it. Let me find one. And our little netting system that we came up with. It's just like a cheap net that you would trellis things up typically. Ideally, like a stronger structure would be better, but I think it's going to be strong enough, especially because they're protected from the wind. We just don't want them the wind to blow so hard it breaks them down, so they'll grow up through it. This one's going to need some extra tying in. And that one too, if it ever gets that tall. But they're starting to bud, which is pretty cool. They all have a little bit different growth habit, which I think is so cute. I'm sure some are sativas and some are indicas. I'll put the names of them on the screen. I forget. I think 2 of them are cookies varieties, cookie strains, mixes. And I can't remember varieties, cookie strains, mixes. And I can't remember what their full names were though, so I'll just put them up so we don't give you false information. So those are our 6 clones that a friend gave me. They're doing really good and looking the best. These ones back here, still budding. It's still gonna give us probably a nice little yield and it has room more to grow. But those are just potentially mixed seeds that a friend gave me And we ended up having to pull 6 of the 10. So I'm so lucky that my friend gave me these 6 because we would have been in trouble. But yeah, everybody's starting to get little buds. And then there's another little guy back there that really struggled behind the tree, and the other guys, but now he's starting to really take off. He was tiny compared to the other ones. And then we have this one that was a seed that we saved last year. We thought from a freak show plant, but not sure because it doesn't seem to have the freak show growth habit. It did this weird thing where it had wrinkled leaves for a minute, and I thought it might have been struggling with something. But it seems to have outgrown it, and I, like I said, fed it well, so hopefully it's gonna be growing great from here on out. Here's our little tiny, this guy was really struggling already. Autoflower. I think these are like harvestable, but like the whole thing's one big giant bud basically, which is kind of fun. I'll take you guys with us when we harvest it, but yeah, most of these leaves aren't doing much for it. I haven't been tending it at all, pulling them off. I've just been kind of like, do whatever you can, buddy, because he was just a little stunted runt guy. And there's our tomatoes. Making a comeback. That one's making a comeback from a complete hornworm attack. It took all the leaves. And then I couldn't find him, so he must have completed his whole life cycle. But these guys need some trellising. And I want to pick up these cups that we grew stuff in, because it's just really hard on me. As you can tell, like bending over, I get really winded really quickly. It's so stupid. Like there's so many things I want to do that I cannot, and it's really frustrating. I harvested and ate our very first cherry tomato off of here. It looked like a sun gold. It was really small. It was really delicious. So there's that. I don't know what that is. Is that like a little wasp thing, or is it a root system from a previous thing I had planted there? Anybody know in the comments? That one's got lots of little flowers, so hopefully these guys will catch up. They're really small starts we got from a friend. Small and not super healthy, but making comebacks like a lot of our garden. Now that we planted them out at the worst time too, the worst heat, so it took them a long time to get kind of established once we did get them out in the ground. And we babied them in kind of the shadier area for a long time first. But yeah, then strawberry blonde marigolds are going crazy. I can never tell if the heads are old or have just, I think these are old, right? I hope they're not about to open. That one might be. It's hard to deadhead them when you're not sure. I think this one might have seeds in it. Oh no, I think that one was about to flower. Oh well. Marigolds are so distinctive smelling. I actually like the smell though, but it's supposed to deter some predators of your plants. But yeah, so that's the garden this morning. The sun's coming up over the houses here, so the pictures are gonna be a little bit worse, or maybe better, in the early morning sunlight. I don't know, the garden gives me a lot of joy. I've been trying to get out here more and more. Oh, I forgot I have all that harvest to carry in. That's gonna be fun. But thanks for hanging out with me today. And I think if this is confusing, it's because I shot the intro and outro last night. And now that I just woke up this morning looking rough, I'm gonna leave that and replace the video itself with this, hopefully. Maybe I'll just mix them all in and really throw you guys off. Just kidding. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you have a great day. Hope your garden's doing great. So yeah, that was the someday in August garden tour. Some random day in August. And it's great hanging out with you. I'm so glad we're finally getting there. At least we got some stuff going, and the more we fertilize, I think it could really catch up, and hopefully we can get all our harvests in before our first frost in October. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great day.
Like and subscribe.